So, allow me to introduce myself. So, my name is Meenakshi Jadhav, and I'm currently working with Transcorp International Limited as HR head. And I am also associated with Pro HR Mitra. Hope my screen is visible to all. Yeah. So I am also associated with Pro HR Mitra as a course instructor, and Pro HR Mitra is a comprehensive training platform offering a wide range of courses on HR topics. So you can download Pro HR Mitra app from Google Play Store. Additionally, we have launched HR Fresh Start, a community dedicated to supporting HR professionals and sharing valuable insights. So, by joining this community, HR professional can build their network and stay updated on the latest HR trends and best practices. Uh, So here the next slide you will find the HR Fresh Start chapter leaders. So we are actively expanding our footprints, and if anyone wants is interested in becoming a part of a community, they can connect us through the WhatsApp. And I'm just sharing the WhatsApp link in the chat box so that if anyone wants to join, they can join using this link. So, as today we have invited Dr. Sandya Adwani, and I'll just introduce about her to take this forward. So, Dr. Sandhya Adwani is a versatile professional with over 34 years of experience in various domains. So, she retired as a director administration from Asail Solutions Limited. She holds a bachelor degree in Ayurveda and masters in law. She is passionate about causes relating to women and has been conducting trainings on prevention of sexual harassment of workplace at the workplace since 2017. So she is also founder of POSH Systems. This is her second career post retirement. Till date, she has trained over 36,000 people. So she is council member of the Maharashtra Anti-Sexual Harassment Council of Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, that is WICI. So she serves as an external member of the internal committee responsible for handling compliance of sexual harassment for more than 30 companies. So there are few awards Dr. Advani has received, and one of them is 99 Women Achiever of India 2020. The latest one is Women Power Beyond 60 Plus Award in May 2023 and 2024 as well. Apart from this, runner up in the Women Power in Social Entrepreneurship Award in the Women Power Summit and Award 2021. Then Women Leader Award 2021 and Inspirational Woman of the Year that she has got in 2021 itself. So, welcome, ma'am. And now it's over to you.
Okay.
I'll just stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Meenakshi, and good evening to all of you. Before we start off, just want you to put in a chat, whether you're from HR or are you working as a POSH consultant, what are you working as? Just put in your profile, a brief profile in the chat. Just want to know you guys better so that I can customize my session accordingly. So are you working as an HR person? Are you working as a POSH consultant? What's your profile? Okay, HR student. Preeti says HR student. Wonderful. I'm just waiting for others to revert. Working as HR fresher. Okay, Karuna says HR. Wonderful. HR executive. Wonderful. Manjari says HR executive. Jay says HR executive. Wonderful. HR executive. Pooja says HR executive. Talent acquisition manager, Madhuri. What about the others? Anyone else? I see that most of you are from HR. Anybody who is not from HR? Okay, Christina says, yeah, assistant manager HR. Poonam says senior HR manager. Wonderful. So all of you, I mean, I see that most of you, whoever have written, everybody is from HR. So let's go ahead and get started off. This is subject which primarily comes under compliances, and HR is supposed to look after POSH, because this connects. This is relating to the employees. Any kind of incident of sexual harassment which happens between the employees, it goes to the internal committee, and basically the internal committee, HR is very much connected with this particular topic that is relating to POSH. So let's go ahead and get started off. Now, before we start off, there are a couple of things that you need to know. I'm going to touch upon a couple of topics. What, in case if you do not have anything relating to POSH, what is it that you need to do? What are the mandatory compliances? And secondly, what are the roles and responsibilities of an employer? What is the employer supposed to do? In case if there is a non-compliance, what are the penalties for non-compliance, not just under the POSH Act, but also under the Companies Act? You need to know about that. We're going to touch upon all these basic aspects, and then we will ask, in case you would like to become a POSH trainer or a POSH consultant, if you're interested in that, what is it that you need to know to be able to achieve that? Right? A lot of times I get approached by various people saying that we want to become a POSH trainer. No, you can't. You see, if they do a one-day course or something like that. Now, the one-day course is not enough, because the act is so deep. There is a lot that one has to learn. So that requires, okay, you get trained, but you also need to keep reading a lot. So we're going to touch upon that when we go to that particular topic. In the meanwhile, let me just share my screen and we can start off. So let me go to the presentation. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. So let's go ahead and get started off. I don't introduce myself. Meenakshi has already done the job. So I have over 34 years of experience in multiple domains. Currently, I'm paneled with 30 plus companies, as an external member till train more than 36,000 people. This she has already mentioned. A basic educational background, a degree in law, medicine, degree in law, master's in law, executive certification in POSH, train the trainer from Dale Carnegie, diploma in cyber law, and certification from UNICEF also. So learning is a passion. I love to keep learning new things. These are a couple of awards. I'm just going to skip this. Let's go ahead and straight jump into the topic on POSH compliance. Now, POSH compliance is like the elephant in the room. When I use the term elephant in the room, what exactly does it mean? Anybody would like to answer this? What does it mean, having an elephant in the room? Can you ignore the elephant? You can't. Can you push it under the carpet? You can't. Can you throw him out? Difficult. So primarily, POSH compliance is like an elephant in the room. Whether you like it or not, you have to look after it. So it is a mandatory compliance, and you need to ensure that you are compliant. Let's go to the next slide. That is, what is the responsibility of the employer? What are the duties that the Act casts on the employer? Number one, there are certain mandatory compliances. So this is your compliance checklist. Number one, in case you want to set up POSH, you need to have a policy in place. Second, you have to disseminate the policy, means you have to make all the employees aware of this policy, share the policy with all the employees. It's not enough that you just create, but it needs to be shared with all the employees. They need to know and they need to understand the policy. Then put up posters near your reception, in the common areas, that zero company has zero tolerance for sexual harassment. So in case anyone has a complaint, they can file a complaint. So some posters relating to POSH, zero tolerance for sexual harassment, things like that. Then the next mandatory compliance is you need to constitute an IC. Now, this is generally done with the help of a board resolution. So the company passes a board resolution that an IC has to be formed, and at many a times they may either the names of the IC members are given, or they may authorize somebody to take care of this aspect. Then the next step is to form a committee in place, and in the committee you need to have an external member. And so empaneling an external member. Now, some places have a registration of the IC with the various district bodies. So in case that is required, you need to do it. Apart from this, so we have set up POSH, we have got a policy in place, we've got the posters in place, we have got the IC in place, we've got the external member in place, IC has been formed. Then after this, have an awareness training once in a year, have a training for the internal committee once in a year. And in case a woman wants to file a complaint with the police, now remember one thing, a woman who experiences sexual harassment at her workplace has two options available to her. She can file a complaint with the IC. She can also file a complaint with the police. So in case if she wishes to file a complaint with the police, the employer is duty bound to provide assistance to her to file a complaint with the police. In the sense, employer can send maybe somebody from HR or somebody from the legal department to go along with her to the police station and file a complaint. Then at the end of the year, you have to have the annual report. Annual report is the year is considered as from January to December. So by the 31st of Jan for most locations, the annual report needs to be filed and it has to be submitted to the district officer. Along with this, one aspect of the internal committee, every quarter have an internal committee meeting. Even if there is no case, you need to have a committee meeting every quarter. Now, every quarter is a best practice. The act is not specifying how many meetings, but every quarter is a best practice. Some companies do it twice in a year, some companies do it 4 times in a year. So these are the mandatory compliances checklists that you need to be aware of. So I mentioned that you need to have a policy in place. So it talks, the IC is responsible for prevention, prohibition, and redressal. Earlier, the IC used to be called as Internal Complaints Committee, but by a notification of 2016, the word complaints has been dropped and the scope of the IC has become bigger. So IC is also responsible for prevention and prohibition. So they do contribute towards that. So you need to have a policy in place which says that sexual harassment is not permitted. Talk about what are the important definitions, what is sexual harassment, what are the forms, what are the types, what action can a woman take if she faces harassment, where can she complain, what should she write in the complaint, what are the documents she needs to give along with it, what about the interim reliefs. We can then also about the informal resolution, that is conciliation, if there is a possibility of that. Then interim reliefs, the inquiry process, what action will the committee take, within how much time will they handle the complaint, what is the punishment, what is the disciplinary penalty, what is the financial penalty. All those things are mentioned in the anti-sexual harassment policy. Display of posters, we are committed to providing a safe workplace. So this has to be put up. This has to be put up some near the reception, where if a visitor also comes, they are also aware of that, in case there is an incident of sexual harassment, that person can file a complaint. Remember, the POSH Act applies to all women who enter your workspace. If they are sexually harassed, they can file a complaint under the POSH Act. The people who come to your workplace could be employee on rolls, employee on contract. It could be a visitor, it could be a client, it could be a volunteer, it could be a candidate coming for an interview. Any of these persons, if they face sexual harassment, they can file a complaint under the POSH Act. So you put up posters and then setting up the internal committee. So the company passes a board resolution. In case if it's a company registered under the Companies Act, they pass a board resolution, or to authorize, either they have got the names of the IC members are there, or they authorize probably the MD to constitute the internal committee, right? Now, what is the internal committee and what does it do? Internal committee is a forum which is created for handling of complaints, redressal of complaints, and all organizations which have 10 employees or more need to have a committee in place. It has the powers of a civil court. So what does it do? It receives the complaint. It will check whether the complaint is falling under POSH or it is coming under POSH Act or not. If it is coming under POSH Act, then they will go ahead, they'll handle the complaint, they'll conduct an inquiry. After an inquiry is over, they'll come to a conclusion. Is this person guilty, not guilty? And in case the person is guilty, they will provide the punishment, which is generally termed as recommendations. And while all this is being done, they maintain strict confidentiality. Who are the people in the IC? So the minimum number of people in the IC is 4. You have a presiding officer who's a woman employee at a senior level, at least 2 other employees, preferably committed to the cause of women or having experience of social work or having a legal background. Remember, the word preferably is used. So in case if they don't have, it doesn't matter. If they have it, nothing like it. And then you have an external member who could be from an NGO which is working for the cause of women, or somebody who's familiar with handling complaints of sexual harassment. It says a person familiar with handling complaints of sexual harassment. So the external member can be a man, it can be a woman also. Now, when we are talking of training, what are the things that we cover? Generally, the background about the act, how did it come into place, important definitions, what is sexual harassment, what are the various forms, what are the various types, how will you file a complaint, within how much time will you file a complaint, where will you file, what is the internal committee, what about conciliation. Then also talk about when will IC refuse conciliation, the inquiry process, what happens after an inquiry, various punishments, how much time does the employer get to implement the inquiry report, and the appeal process. This much is basic stuff which is to be known by the employees. Then, as I mentioned to you, that the IC has the powers of a civil court. When I use the word IC, it means the internal committee. IC has the powers of a civil court. Now, in case a complaint comes to the IC, they need to know what is to be done. What is the first step? What is the second step? What is the third step? How do they go ahead with conducting an inquiry? How do they come to a conclusion whether this person is guilty, not guilty? How do they decide what is the quantum of punishment? Apart from this, how many ICs does a company need? Now, company has got branches in multiple locations. Do they need to have so many ICs? All those things. So timelines for handling a complaint, then legal principles to be followed in the complaint handling, what are the various biases, all those things are covered. So the IC is handheld and taught how to handle a complaint from the time it reaches it till the time a report is made. Apart from this, when we're doing a training for the internal committee, we also cover provisions of the Indian Penal Code. From 1st July, it's going to be called as Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Then also provisions under the Information Technology Act. Very, very important for the IC to know about these provisions. At the end of the financial year, I'm sorry, not financial year, at the end of the calendar year, Jan to December, by 31st of Jan, the report is filed. This is the annual report, and it has got basically 5 questions. How many complaints of sexual harassment were received in a year? How many were disposed of in the year? How many went beyond 90 days? Remember, the IC gets 90 days time to handle the complaint or carry out the inquiry and come to a decision. So how many went beyond 90 days? How many workshops or training programs has the company carried out? And whether what is the action taken by the employer. So in case if you have, say, for example, 2 complaints, so you will mention number of complaints 2. How many were disposed of during the year? 2. If both of them were completed within 90 days, so number of cases pending for more than 90 days, you'll put it as 0. How many trainings did you do? Maybe you did 2 trainings, so you put 2. Now, in one complaint, the recommendation is to transfer the person. In the other one, there is a recommendation of termination. So in that last question, you will write down nature of action taken by the employer. 1, you will write down transfer. 2, you will write down termination of services. This is how you will prepare your annual report. Then the Act also has a provision of supervisory powers. The government can send somebody for an inspection, right? The government can ask for information. The district officer can write to the company and say, I need this information. And it is mandatory for the employer to provide that information. If the employer doesn't provide, it's a non-compliance. And any inspector may also land up in your premises saying, I want to do a POSH inspection. So are you ready for the POSH inspection? That is important. What documents do you need to keep ready for the POSH inspection? And if you are asked, you're supposed to provide the documents. If you don't provide the documents, he'll give you a notice saying that in next 7 days, please provide all these. If you don't provide all that, it becomes there could be a penalty which could be levied on the organization. So the act uses the words every employer shall produce, means it is mandatory to produce whatever documents are asked for inspection. The employer cannot say, no, I'm sorry, I don't have it. You can't say that. Now, what are the penalties for non-compliance? So the penalty for the first offense is up to 50,000. Now, what are the various offenses if you don't have a committee in place? You have more than 10 employees, but you don't have a committee in place. So failure to constitute an internal committee. Committee has handled a complaint, and the committee has come up with the recommendation that this person's services are to be terminated, but the employer is not terminating the services. So the employer is not acting upon the recommendation of the internal committee. It is a non-compliance. Employer has not filed the annual report. At the end of the calendar year, by 31st Jan, the employer has to file a report. The employer has not filed the report, failed to file, or employer has contravened or attempted to contravene any of the provisions of the act. For the first offense, the penalty can be an amount of rupees 50,000. In case if the same offense is repeated, the penalty can be twice or more. Right? So if supposing the company is not having an IC in place, the penalty can be 50,000. Still, despite telling all that, also despite warning, still they have not done it. Same offense repeated, penalty can be twice. It can also result in cancellation or withdrawal of business license. Remember, when an IC is handling a complaint, they are supposed to keep things confidential. So the name of the parties are not shared, interim reliefs granted are not shared, conciliation proceedings are not shared. Whatever is the final outcome of the inquiry, what is the recommendation, whether the employer is shared, carried it out or not, all these are not to be shared. It is not to be shared with whom? With the public, press, or media. If any of the IC members or any of the other officers commits a breach of confidentiality, there is a penalty of about rupees 5,000. Now, I would like you to know that the POSH Act is not only connected, with only the POSH Act, but POSH as such comes into play even in the Companies Act. So under this Companies Accounts Rules 2014, there is a director's report which goes to the Registrar of Companies. And if you see this, there is a statement here saying that the company has complied with the provisions relating to the constitution of the IC under the Act. So the director's report has this clause, and the company has to comply with it, that the company has formed an IC. If the company has not complied with this, let me tell you what is the penalty for the company. Company is a legal entity. So it can only be a financial penalty. The penalty could be from 50,000 to 25 lakhs. And apart from this, every officer of the company, whoever is responsible for this compliance, it will include the board, it will include the MD, it will include your compliance head. Every person who's responsible for this compliance, the punishment can be an imprisonment for up to 3 years, or fine from 50,000 to 5 lakhs, or both. So it can result in imprisonment and fine, or both. So it's pretty serious. So it's very, very important that this act is followed. What is the impact of non-compliance on the organization? What can happen? Company name gets spoiled, clients will not want to work with you, loss of shareholder confidence, there'll be fines levied on the organization, loss of productivity, people don't want to work there. You will not be able to attract good talent. Women employees will say, we don't want to work here, this company is not really bothered, they are very, they don't care for the well-being of the employees, and they will resign. And because of that, there'll be a lack of trust. People will not feel comfortable. Remember, people need to feel comfortable. Only then they can be productive. So if impact of non-compliance is quite severe, loss of productivity, etc. You get new people, again, you train them, you're spending time and money training the people, and then you don't know how long they'll be there in the organization. So it's very, very important that there is a proper compliance of the POSH Act. Now, this is a case, Medanta Hospital case, where this hospital did not have a committee in place. So the court levied a penalty of 50,000 on the hospital for not having a committee in place, and also asked the hospital to pay 25 lakhs to the victim. So the penalties can be quite severe. Once the matter goes to court, then the penalties can be pretty severe. This is another case, which is an old case, Gayatri Devi Balaswamy versus Novasoft Technologies. Here, the penalty amount levied was 1 crore 68 lakhs. So it is pretty bad. So it's very, very important that you're properly POSH compliant. It's not too much, not too difficult. It is very simple. You just need to have your policy in place, your posters, set up a committee, ensure that the committee is meeting every quarter, have a training, one training in employee awareness, one training for the IC, and at the end of the year, file the annual reports. That's all. There's nothing more to it. Once you set it up, it's absolutely simple. It's not difficult at all, right? But the penalties for non-compliance are pretty severe, right? If there are some questions in case if any, Amit, you asked a question, 10 employees or is it 10 female employees? The correct answer is 10 employees. Right?
Thank
And Preeti has asked, is the report mandatory? Yes, it's mandatory. Every year the report has to be filed, otherwise it's a non-compliance. So in case you have any other questions.
Even if there are no female employees,
yes,
we have to have
yes. The Act says IC has to be formed where there are 10 employees or more. It doesn't say 10 women employees.
Yeah, so how do the IC has to have female members? So how will they form?
So what happens is, Amit, if the organization has a sister concern, they can take a female employee from that office. So if you don't have it in your office, you have it in another office, you can take the person to be a part of the IC from there. Sometimes they have taken it from sister concerns, or they have even taken it from another organization, so that there is an IC in place. Now, as far as IC is concerned, the presiding officer has to be a woman. You take an external member, you can take that person can also be a woman. That way you comply with the 50% rule for the IC. And you can take 2 other employees. Maybe you don't have women, okay, take 2 men. So you'll have 2 men, 2 women. Again, you're compliant because 50% of the IC has to be women.
Okay.
That's how you will take care of it. Now, I would like to ask you if anyone, I've been asked this question multiple times. I want to become a POSH trainer. What do I do? Any of you have that kind of a question? If company has branches, how many ICs are to be made? So the law says for every branch where you have 10 employees or more, you need to have an IC in place. So Sakshi, what happens is, supposing you have an organization which has got like 100 branches. Are we going to have 100 ICs? How will you take care of that scenario? Like 100 branches, more than 15 employees in each location. So what companies do is they have, they divide the country into various zones: North Zone, South Zone, East Zone, West Zone. So they divide it in this particular manner, and they take representation from various, states to be a part of the IC for North Zone. So North Zone, they'll take people from Delhi, North India, as well as from, say, Punjab, Rajasthan. So all those people will pick. In West, they will take Maharashtra, Goa, Gujarat. This is how they'll take, and they'll take representation from various offices to be a part of the IC. Now, the purpose of having an IC in each of these places is for the convenience of the aggrieved woman. If she has a complaint, she should be able to go and approach the person. So what one does is, you don't need to have only 4. You can have at least, say, for one zone, you can have, say, 10 to 15 people in for that zone. And you can, create in separate, some members, the presiding officer can be common, the external member can be common, and the local representatives can form the local IC. So as far as filing is concerned, this is how you can do the filing. But otherwise, you have a zonal IC in place: North Zone, South Zone, East Zone, West Zone. That's how a lot of times organizations do it, particularly banks, because they've got so many branches across the country. How many males and how many females? At least 50% of them have to be women. So, but you need to ensure, like, you can that there is a presence of males also. Otherwise, it is not a balanced committee. Because if the respondent is a male, he will say that there is no male in the committee. Nobody is there to listen to me. The women are going to be biased, right? So Manjari says that I'm pursuing my second master's in psychology. Will it be helpful for me to be a POSH trainer? The thing is, only if you have a passion for it, your subject will help you to become a good trainer. If you are already studying psychology, it will help you when you are training, when you are also handling complaints. You will be able to understand, well, when you'll be able to understand people better, particularly when you're handling a complaint. The complainant is sitting in front of you, the respondent is sitting in front of you. Male can of course be a POSH trainer. There's absolutely no problem. There's no restriction as far as being a POSH trainer, a male or a female. Now, I can share, and I'd like to share a small incident which happened with me. You've seen what is my background. How did I get into this particular field, right? So I was working as an admin head for an IT company, and one day we had an incident which happened with a security guard. Okay, so this guard was going on leave, and he left a note for a woman employee saying that I am going to my native place. I have kept some chocolates for you. I will miss you. God bless you. Take care of yourself. So this is what he wrote, a note, and he kept it in a jacket which was lying on the chair. This lady was not there. Then on Monday, when this lady came in and she saw this note, and obviously she got upset, why is this, guard writing something like this for me? And, she complained to her manager. Manager brought it to me because security came under me. So manager brought it to me. I wrote a letter to the agency that we don't want this person on our premises. Now, what they did, can you please transfer him? Now, what they did was they fired the guy. So he lost his job. Now that made me realize that we are doing our trainings in English. Had we done it in Hindi, probably this man wouldn't have lost his job, right? He wouldn't have lost his job. And then I volunteered to do trainings in Hindi for the, pantry boys, electricians, security, housekeeping staff, office boys, all of them. So I started doing trainings in Hindi for them. And I realized that, I was enjoying doing this because I had a law background in any case. So, the staff, when I did the first training, people started telling me, Madam, next month also, please take a training for us. And I started doing this across various locations. And I realized that this is something I enjoy doing. And I thought that in 2 years, I will retire. At that time, I was 56. So in 2 years, I will retire. So I'm obviously going to do something. So why don't I look at it seriously and take this up, because it allows me to go back to law. I'm doing something for the cause of women. It's a mandatory compliance, and I can work at my own time, right? So that's how then I started doing. I did the executive certification in POSH, trained the trainer from Dale Carnegie. I read a lot. I studied a lot. And while I was working, I was studying. And whenever I got an opportunity to speak before an audience, like, maybe the Lions Club or Rotary Club, I would go and talk about POSH. And I attended various sessions from by various people, trying to understand what is the content that they cover. And I created my own modules, and I started doing training in my own organization, right? So that's how I got started off. And when I retired in 2019, I set up my own firm. Today, I have more than, I have around 60 clients, and I'm empaneled with almost 37 companies as an external member. So, Poonam, 25-year-old company has not implemented. If they're planning now, how can they implement? They need to have a policy in place. They need to put up posters. They need to create an internal committee and empanel an external member. And all those compliances that we talked about, that is what they need to do. And that can be done. For being an external member, what is the criteria for being an external member, Amit? The criteria is one, either you're connected with an NGO which is working for the cause of women, or second is you're familiar with, you're familiar with this topic, you're familiar with this handling of cases of sexual harassment, right? So that is what you need to know. Now, when you're talking about being familiar, you need to have some certification as far as POSH is concerned. You need to be able to read. You have that kind of experience, and then only you will get into becoming an external member. Because being an external member carries a lot of responsibility. You are supposed to be the guide, you are supposed to be the consultant. For you to reach the level of consultant, it requires a lot of study. So I'm going to show something to you guys. Give me a moment. I'm going to share something with you. Okay, let me just share my screen. This is something I have. In case if it interests you, we can look at it. Okay, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's go ahead. So, why should you train the trainer for POSH? So, a lot of I get these questions, that I want to become a trainer and all, but like one day training is not enough. You need to know something more. Even that one day has to be really effective. So, all organizations are required to do a POSH awareness training. Second is all organizations which have got 10 employees or more needs to have an internal committee in place, and an external member is needed in every committee. So there are so many lakhs and lakhs of organizations where they need good trainers. There is a dearth of quality trainers. A lot of times people just do a one-day course and they call themselves as POSH consultants or POSH enablers or something. That is not enough. You need a depth of the knowledge. After having masters in law, having been doing this since 2017, I still feel there is so much to learn. So currently there is a shortage of knowledgeable trainers and skilled external members, and most of the time the trainings are maybe 30 people together, 50 people together. They miss out on the personalized training. Now here I do have two types of modules. I'm just sharing it with you. There is no compulsion. I'm just wanting you to know that there is an option like this. I generally don't do TTTs because then my content is going out. But I do it sometimes. Since this was an occasion, I'm just sharing with you. So there are two modules that I have. One module is the basic module. Second one is the advanced module. Basic module, if you do, you will be able to do a POSH training for the employees. What are the things that would be covered in the basic module? You can see it will cover gender stereotyping, what is the background of the act, introduction to the POSH Act, what are the important definitions, what are the primary factors and the secondary factors, all those will be covered. What is not sexual harassment will be covered, and why don't women report sexual harassment? There are various reasons. So these are the things covered. You can take a screenshot if you want, otherwise this portion can be shared. And as far as advance is concerned, it will have the nuances and the case laws. What action can a complainant take? What should be written in the complaint? Then what happens if the person is physically or mentally disabled? Who will file a complaint? What if the person dies? All those are covered in the advance module. Rights of the parties to a complaint. What about the formation of the committee? Then what is a casual vacancy will be covered in the advanced module. Advanced module is when you want to become an external member or you want to do training for the IC. When can an IC member be removed? Duties of the internal committee will be covered in both. Then in advance, we will cover why does internal committee need an external member? How many ICs does a company need? What are the powers of the committee? Legal principles to be followed when a person is handling a complaint. What are the different types of complaints the person can handle? What about oral complaints, complaints on social media, anonymous complaints, all those? So how will IC handle complaints against outsiders and employees of other companies? Complaint handling process, you can see that where there is a cross, it's not covered in basic, it's covered in advance. Interim reliefs, parameters to be kept in mind when granting the reliefs, conciliation, inquiry, various processes, what are the various biases in an inquiry, examination, cross examination, because that is done by the IC, so that is coming in the advanced module. The reasoning, how do you come to a decision that this person is guilty, not guilty, right? Then legal principles to be followed in decision making, how do you decide? Then what are the various penalties? How do you decide which penalty to give? Report writing, punishment for false complaints, duties and responsibilities of an employer, mandatory compliance as we talked about it, provision for inspection. Then important provisions under the IPC as well as the IT Act, all those things are there in the advanced module. They will not be in the basic module. So when we are doing both the modules, I will sort of give you all some case studies, what has happened and how was it handled, and various examples, because I've been doing this for so many years. On successful completion, participant will be handed over a customized certificate. So the fees are, this is basic module is 2 hours into 2 days, I'll tell you what all I will also cover. When you do this, you can become a trainer to conduct awareness sessions for employees. Advanced module is 2 hours into 4 days. You will be able to conduct training for the IC members, also be able to do training for employees, and can also become an external member. This is the kind of certificate you would get if you complete the basic modules, attending and completing TTT on employee awareness. This is the kind of certificate you will get if you do the advanced level. What are the benefits? If you're a trainer, you can do sessions for the employees in your own organization also. Understand what are the principles to be followed in complaint handling. You'll be able to train the IC members, get empaneled as an external member. You will also learn the art and skill of complaint handling and get practical knowledge on report writing. Plus, you'll be able to make a difference to the lives of people, when you're doing these kind of sessions. So there are some bonuses. With the basic module, you get the act and the rules and a handbook on POSH. With the advanced module, you get this too. Plus, you get templates. Plus, you get a customized IC manual. You get guidance and query handling complimentary for 1 year, right? Now, I'm going to show you some feedback. I also want you to know that I would also cover the art and skill of being a good trainer. How do you start the session? How do you end the session? How do you structure it out? With practical experience of having, making you do it. Like, okay, this is the presentation. Okay, now how will you start? How will you end it? How will you make the audience be engaged? So those are the things that would also be covered in both the trainings, right? Feedback from the past students, you can read it yourself. People have really appreciated it, and they've liked the sessions. The training was to the point, covered each and every aspect related to POSH. It was interactive. And I take time. I mean, I don't look at the clock when I'm teaching. I teach till the time you are satisfied that you have learned well, right? This is one feedback. This is a second feedback. So this was a session which was done online for someone. This is a third session, a third student. I told you I don't generally do it because my content goes out. So I generally don't do it. Today we were having this session, and a lot of people had put in those queries. How do you become a POSH trainer, etc. That is why I've shared this. And even if I take a batch, it will not be more than 5 people, so that there is a personalized session, right? So, any questions? The pricing for the pricing for the basic module is 15,000. I will ensure that you have understood the topic. You will be able to deliver. You will be able to. I'll give you my presentation. You will be able to stand up and you will be able to present. That is the confidence you will get. For today, for people, if they want to sign up, for instead of 15, it will be 12. For those who want to do an advance, instead of 30, it will be 25. But the kind of content that is covered is a lot. I do an 8-hour session for companies. I charge them 80,000 for a 1-day session. That is the kind of revenue you can get if you're, if you're well trained. I don't say only this much is enough. You need to keep reading. I will guide you on what all you need to read and take it ahead. Because without study, without getting, without reading, without acquiring knowledge, you can't become a master, right? So that's all I wanted to share today. Right? Any comments, anything else you would like to share? Did you like it? Did you feel it was useful to attend the session? At least you know about the various compliances, duties, and responsibilities of the employer. What are the various penalties for non-compliance?
So if you have any queries, I request you can unmute and you can ask, because we have planned this session based on the feedback what we have received when we initially circulated the details. So that's how the 4 topics which and me and ma'am has discussed so that we have covered the four topics. And if anyone wants to enroll for this session, you can directly connect with ma'am. Ma'am, if you could just share your mobile number in it. Yes, Amit, you have some query.
Yeah, ma'am, just wanted to know for being an external member in the committee,
Yeah.
is there any minimum number of years of experience or working in POSH committee, working on POSH area required, or just
No, there is nothing laid down as such. But at the end of the day, say, for example, Amit, you go to a company and the company is calling you to become an external member. They are going to ask you questions. They will see what is your knowledge and expertise in the subject. You
mm-hmm.
could have just have 1 year of experience, but if you know the subject well, that
Mm-hmm.
shows when people speak to you.
Okay, so legally as such, there is nothing
No, there
required.
is nothing
Okay.
mentioned as such for an internal committee.
Okay. Okay. I remember, I don't know if I am right, but I remember reading it somewhere in that handbook, which
Yeah,
is published somewhere, minimum 5 years of
that is
experience.
for the local committee, not for internal committee.
Okay. Okay.
That's
Okay.
the difference.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Yeah, so ma'am has already shared her contact number. So you can connect with her. And secondly, even I have shared few links about the WhatsApp if you want to join for more updates on HR training. So you can share, you can join that WhatsApp group. Further, even I have shared the webinar feedback. I request that if you could just share your feedback, this will help us to bring more speaker like ma'am who can share their knowledge and experience with us. Yes. So, any more questions for ma'am?
Can I tell you all something?
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
See, when I was working as as a director administration, what I was earning, now after retirement, I'm earning much, much more. Right? It's a passion for me. I am into this. I eat, sleep, dream, drink, posh. That is the kind of passion you require if you want to go ahead. Yeah, Nancy, go ahead.
Good evening, ma'am.
I can't hear you. Just speak a little louder, please.
Hello.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it
yeah.
audible? It's fine.
Yeah, I can hear you. Tell me.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good
Ma'am,
evening.
I want to ask that I don't have any law experience or degree. Will it affect like my credibility as a trainer?
No, so okay. If you don't, if can I just repeat your question? You don't have a law background. Will it impact your credibility as a trainer? Not necessarily. At the end of the day, the person when you speak before an audience, the way you speak, the knowledge you carry with you, the way you conduct your training, all that matters. At the end of the day, whether you can have people who have got masters in law, but they are not able to deliver. They the clarity of thought is very, very important. So even if you don't have, but if you have studied the subject, you have some kind of a certification, that adds value. And you can start off by doing, say for example, do some free sessions. You do free sessions, say okay, do it for your contract staff, do it for some employees, take a small group of new joinees who have come, and do it. That is how you will build up your confidence and you will be able to deliver better. So when we do the training also, I would teach you what is the art and skill of being a good trainer, make you practice it. Okay, now this is this presentation. Now, how will you open the session? How will you close the session? How will you structure it out? How can you make it more engaging? So I also use a lot of videos in my training. So if you are enrolled, then I would share the links of the videos. You can include them in your presentation. I would always encourage you to create your own presentation, because when you create your own, it becomes easier for you to explain, right? Rather than just following somebody's presentation. You can take that as a guidance, but you can create your own. And once you are shown the direction on how to go ahead, you will be able to do it very, very easily. So at least, if not anything else, the basic POSH awareness session itself, if you do, is good enough. Now, there are people who charge various amounts. I do a 1 hour session, 1 to 1.25 hour session. I charge 16,000 for 1 hour. If I do a 2 hour session, I charge 24,000 for a 2 hour session. This is the kind of revenue you can get if you are, qualified and you're good. So it's all a matter of practice.
Right, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. One
Yeah.
more question I want to ask.
Yeah.
That it case, like we are moving ahead with the training part as a trainer or
Yeah.
trainer.
Yeah.
So like, it is difficult to gather. Means like companies are involved in the POSH training.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but what universities and campuses
Yes.
actually interested?
So as far as universities and campuses, they also require to go ahead and do the trainings for POSH, but universities are governed by University Grants Commission regulations. So under those regulations, so they need to follow both the POSH Act as well as the regulations of UGC regulations. Under the UGC regulations, not even a male student can complain, a female student can complain, a transgender student can complain. Along with that, because the POSH Act is also there, a woman employee can also complain. So all of them are authorized to complain, and this is covered under UGC regulations and the POSH Act. So colleges also require these kind of training. Schools also will require this kind of training. So the market is huge. There is a dearth of good trainers.
Right, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, ma'am. Wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. I just request you to fill up that link that Meenakshi has shared. Any certification bodies for POSH which are recognized by corporates, they are all private. There is no government certified course as such.
Even Amit is asking about, is
In
there any?
basic knowledge of law, you will learn, no?
Yeah.
The law, if you read the language, is quite technical. But if suppose I explain it in a very, very simple language, so once you have understood the subject, you go back and read the law. Whatever assistance you require as far as understanding is concerned, I break up the sections and I explain it to you. So once you've understood, then it's not difficult at all. Any other questions, if you have, you can reach out to me. No problems. I hope I have been able to add some value to the session today with all those other stuff that I talked about. I talked about TTT only because there were so many people who had asked about being a POSH trainer.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, the session was very wonderful, and you had given the brief understanding about what POSH is, and if we want to become a POSH trainer, what are the things we need to cover up. Yes, but it was really the wonderful session. Thanks a lot, ma'am. So, if you have any questions, I request everyone to please come up, or else we can wind up the session. You can just take down ma'am's number and you can connect with her. Ma'am, are you there? I think there is some network issue at her end. So I have also shared the ma'am's. Okay, there was. I will also share the LinkedIn of ma'am, so you can also directly connect with her. Just give me a second.
Ma'am, you are on mute.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
realize that I got disconnected and then I didn't realize I was on mute. So I was talking about that we talked about the POSH Act and the company law. Let's talk about POSH Act and the labor law. Now, sometimes you may have a labor inspector who will come to your office and he can ask for Form R. A Form R has got multiple things which are related to various other labor compliances, but the Form R also has a question number 13, right? Form R has a question number 13, which talks about whether there is a committee in place who is the presiding officer, whether the list of the IC members is displayed or not. It asks for all those things. So if those are not in place, the labor inspector will levy a penalty on you, or will ask you to ensure, issue a show cause notice why action should not be taken for this thing not being in place. So the POSH Act is connected in three places: with the Act, with the company law, and as well as labor law. That was something that I wanted to tell you. So if you comply with it, you're okay with all the three places. Right?
In the initial few slides, you mentioned about some sections and rules. So just wanted to know for which act or document those
that
sections.
is for POSH Act.
POSH Act. Okay.
Yeah, that's for POSH Act.
Okay.
Where company law, I've shown you the screenshot of that company's accounts rules. So the director's report has that requirement that there is a question that the company has complied with the provisions of the POSH Act and formed a committee. So if there is a non-compliance, then I told you about the penalties leviable to the company and to the people who are responsible for that compliance.
So this POSH Act is available online on some website?
Yes. It's available. Just if you go to the website of Women and Child Development, you will go to legislation, go to women related legislation, you will find the act, the rules and the handbook.
Thank you.
Yeah, that should help you. And that, if you read, will give you a good amount of information. Right? Any other question? Otherwise, we can end the session for the day.
Yeah, I have shared your LinkedIn link
Sure.
as well.
No problem. Anytime.
Yes.
You can send a request. I'll connect.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amit. I hope you access this site, get all that information, and it is useful for you. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, ma'am. It was really a wonderful session, and you have almost given the nice insights about the POSH. So thank you. Thanks a lot. And I request everyone that I have already shared madam's number in the group as well as the LinkedIn link as well. So you can connect with her anytime. So see you soon, ma'am, in the next session.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thanks everyone. So we'll come back with another topic on HR in the coming weeks then. Thank you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Good night.
Thank you much, yeah.